Equality, historian Walter Scheidel once wrote, was only ever brought forth in sorrow. At this moment, coronavirus 19 is sweeping through the world and the global economy appears to be collapsing. This, without question, is one of those times of sorrow, a period when our lives are upended and filled with uncertainty. But as more and more people adjust to life in quarantine, we are starting what's becoming a global social experiment. Ideas that we only talked about in the years before are being put into action on a massive scale. This is going to be a difficult time, but it's also going to the spark of some incredible changes. So keep watching till end. 5. From home. Before coronavirus 19, only 7% of American workers had the option to work from home. That doesn't mean that 7% were working from home, it just means that 93% of Americans were told that it would never be an option. Today, working from home is a necessity. There are no hard statistics on how many people are working remotely around the world, but the company Cisco has said that, in China, their video conferencing software has been seeing 22 times as much traffic as it did before the outbreak. The world is engaged in a global work-from-home experiment and we're going to see firsthand just how sustainable it is. There are already studies on this, and the results are very positive. One found that people working from home have 16.8 more days worth of productivity a year. Those studies have always been out there, but if employers see the results firsthand for themselves, there's going to be no denying that letting people continue working from home after the pandemic is over isn't going to send them out of business. And that could be incredible for our life satisfaction. The average commute to work has increased by 20 minutes over the past decade, and experts say that those 20 minutes affect job satisfaction as much as a 19% cut in pay. 4. Universal basic income. A few months ago, universal basic income seemed like a pipe dream. The idea of sending every person in a country a monthly check, even if they don't go to work, was starting to crop up on the odd campaign trail, but in most countries, it didn't sound like anything we'd see anytime soon. But for the next few months, it's going to be a reality. The United Kingdom has committed to paying 80% of its workers' salaries, while Denmark has offered to pay upward to 90%. And even the United States is planning on sending a $1,200 check to almost every adult American. None of these plans are exactly the same as universal basic income, but they're close. They're going to effectively be dry test runs on how these policies really affect society. It's too early to say what the result is going to be. Finland tried universal basic income in 2017 and 2018 and concluded that it left people happy but jobless, which might be what we find in the rest of the world, as well. But one way or another, these debates are going to be a lot less theoretical when the pandemic is over. 3. Online learning. Schools are shutting down in nearly every country that's seen an outbreak of coronavirus 19, and that's pushing parents and teachers into a whole new era of education. For the next few months, online learning is going to be the norm. No matter how tech-savvy your teacher is, they're going to have to learn how to make education digital. Based on early reactions, it's unlikely that we'll see widespread adoption of online education when this is over. Feedback from teachers, so far, has been almost universally negative. The major problem is that online learning compounds disadvantages. Children whose parents don't have time to push them on their education fall further behind, while those who can't afford internet access are almost completely excluded. Still, every teacher in the world is getting a crash course in 21st century learning. They're guaranteed to come back with ideas that'll transform how our kids learn. At least for the kids that come back. A lot of parents are turning to homeschooling, and since homeschooled kids typically score higher on standardized tests than kids in public schools, there's a good chance that a lot of those parents will decide to stick with it. 2. Rise of big government. There are no libertarians in a pandemic, Meghan McCain recently said. Whether that's a good thing or not is up to debate, but good or bad, there's a lot of reason to believe that it's true. Around the world, people have been embracing big government ever since coronavirus 19 began to spread. Socialist policies are being implemented all around the world, even in countries led by conservative and libertarian leaders. The US government is planning on spending $1 trillion fighting coronavirus 19, while the United Kingdom's Boris Johnson has said that there's no ceiling to how much they'll spend. Big government's making a comeback, and in some places, it's in pretty extreme ways. The Israeli government has started using its people's cell phone location data to identify everyone who has come in contact with an infected patient. If you've been near them, you'll get a text telling you to quarantine yourself immediately. McCain's being hyperbolic, of course. There are still libertarians, but their voices are being muted. And even if hands-off government comes back in fashion when this is over, there are bound to be a few bills passed that, before coronavirus 19, never would have made it through. 1. A new political uprising. Corona-19 is hitting our health hard, but it's hitting our economy even harder. According to analysts at J.P. Morgan Chase, there is no longer doubt. We now think that the coronavirus 19 shock will produce a global recession. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. That analyst predicts that 400,000 Americans will become unemployed in the next few weeks alone. And before this is over, it could be even worse. Another analyst believes that, before this over, 7.4 million people in the leisure and hospitality industry will be unemployed. It's the poor who are going to be hit hardest of all. While office workers are going to be able to work remotely from home, it'll mostly be servers and warehouse workers that suffer through this pandemic. That's going to be painful, but as Sheidel said, equality was only ever brought forth in sorrow. We're going to learn a lot from this experience, and once we know what the real lesson of coronavirus 19 is, people are going to be demanding change. Experts are already predicting a revolution, one that analyst Cassie O'Neill has described as Occupy Wall Street 2.0. Coronavirus-19 is going to put us to the test, but when that test is over, we're going to have a better understanding of the cracks in our societies. And if we're lucky, our world just might wind up a better place.